stunt doubles have always had a very weird job. First, they need to look a lot like a famous actor. Then, instead of getting famous themselves, they have to get really hurt. And if they do their jobs correctly, you'll never know they exist. Unless you watch this video, that is.
What does it take to go toe-to-toe with Deadpool and Wolverine? For the person under Lady Deadpool's costume, it probably helped to have years of experience working on the biggest blockbusters in recent history. When Lady Deadpool saunters onto the screen during Deadpool and Wolverine, she brings a whole lot of attitude with her. Leading a group of fellow Deadpool variants, she holds her own in an action-packed battle with Deadpool and Wolverine. While Lady Deadpool's dulcet tones are sort of recognizable as belonging to Ryan Reynolds' real-life wife, Blake Lively, the character isn't always played by her in the film. At least part of the time, if not all of it, the suited-up version of Lady Deadpool is portrayed on screen by Christian Betteridge. She might not have a familiar face, but she's been the person behind a number of action-packed moments for some very famous actors over the years. She's even become a go-to stunt person for one A-lister in particular. Betteridge got her start as a stunt woman in 2016. She started out on the sci-fi series Hunters, and also performed stunts in Mako Mermaids, the Netflix-exclusive mermaid-centered series from the H2O universe. Betteridge began performing stunts for Gal Gadot on Wonder Woman in 2017. The two must have found that they were a good match, because Betteridge has gone on to double and perform stunts for Gadot on Justice League, Wonder Woman 1984, Red Notice, and Heart of Stone. Betteridge paid tribute to Gadot on her Instagram in 2020 with a photo on the set of Wonder Woman 1984, writing, "I can't wait for the world to see how hard this woman worked, spending hours fighting and being cinched up in harnesses without giving up and always giving your absolute all." Apparently written while the movie was filming, Betteridge continued to say, "It's been an amazing journey so far, and I am so incredibly grateful for it and to be able to get up every morning for a job I love, surrounded by people who inspire me every day to keep learning and improving, bring on the future, and more kicking butt." While she seems to have found steady work doubling for Gadot, Betteridge has also been the unseen hero of other films starring major actors. In 2023, she doubled for Famke Janssen on Locked In, and is credited with performing stunt work on The Marvels. And her next project will have her doubling for Uma Thurman in the upcoming Old Guard 2.
Always loved Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
She was,
Amazing.
A big hero of mine.
The film is a sequel to the 2020 action thriller, and although it's been delayed for several years, it's reported to be in post-production. Until then, audiences will have to get their fill of Betteridge by keeping up with her Instagram, where she chronicles her very athletic life, veganism, children, and more details from her personal life. In 2023, she got engaged to fellow stunt performer Andy Lister, who's also worked on multiple Marvel and DC films, and was in fact the assistant stunt coordinator on Deadpool and Wolverine. In an Instagram post calling out the film's stunt team, Lister made a special mention of Betteridge, writing, "There's too many people to mention here, but I'm thankful to everyone. Most importantly, Christian Betteridge, for always supporting me and being by my side, and undoubtedly the sexiest lady in a Deadpool costume." Betteridge also worked as a personal trainer and announced there that she's going to be posting on-demand workouts and taking on a limited number of clients for whom she will create personal training programs.
Ingrid Kleinig has been in the biz for a while and definitely knows the ropes. She's done stunt work on movies as diverse as Superman Returns, Australia, and Iron Sky, but Kleinig really broke into the big time as Evangeline Lilly's stunt double in The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. Still, if she's had one defining part, it's her work as Margot Robbie's stunt double on Suicide Squad. She and Robbie, who's a dancer herself, became friends while tag teaming the stunts for Harley Quinn. They even held a long-running contest to see who could hold their breath the longest underwater. In the end, they both topped 5 minutes. That's the kind of skill that comes in handy when your job involves crashing face first through a Lamborghini windshield in a water tank. Over roughly a decade, Will Erickson has built up a huge Hollywood stunt resume, appearing in everything from Tron Legacy to Wayward Pines. In 2016, Erickson scored big when he landed the part of Ryan Reynolds' stunt double during the filming of Deadpool. Along with a team of other stuntmen, Erickson helped bring our favorite regenerating degenerate to the big screen. In particular, Erickson was instrumental in the SUV scene at the start of the movie, and for that, Erickson, you have our heartfelt thanks. Richard Bradshaw's prolific stunt career spans nearly 3 decades of work on television and the big screen. You've seen his work in movies like The Fifth Element, Titanic, and Tomorrow Never Dies, and he's also been involved in the production of Game of Thrones, serving as both a performer and the show's assistant stunt coordinator for more than 24 episodes. In the X-Men franchise, Bradshaw worked as a performer and stunt double for Hugh Jackman in X-Men 2, The Last Stand, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, and Days of Future Past. William Spencer earned the name The Skate Ninja on YouTube for his unusual skateboarding style, but he probably never thought his board would give him a career in the movies. The Amazing Spider-Man director Mark Webb had other ideas. For his first outing with the Webhead, Webb wanted to do something completely different. Spencer, who'd spent a few years picking up spare paychecks doing light stunt work on movies like Jonah Hex and Project X, didn't even make it to his Spider-Man audition. Ultimately, the filmmakers couldn't find what they were looking for and looped back around to Spencer, who ended up as Andrew Garfield's double for both Amazing Spider-Man movies. Tony McFarg got started as a stunt performer in 2011, and since then he's built up an impressive stunt resume, appearing in dozens of television series and films. With his role in 2015's Jurassic World, it seems McFarg found his niche as Chris Pratt's stunt double. He went on to double for Pratt in 2016's Passengers, and again the following year in Guardians of the Galaxy's Volume 2, a role he prepared for by playing with toy guns? Nice. Bobby Holland Hanton is one of the most in-demand stuntmen in Hollywood. He's doubled for Chris Evans' Captain America, Christian Bale in The Dark Knight Rises, and Ryan Reynolds in The Green Lantern, to name a few. But if there's one gig he's especially proud of, it's getting to bring the thunder as Thor across the MCU. From the costumes to the kick-ass stunt work, Hanton loves everything about this gig, especially star Chris Hemsworth, whom he describes to Business Insider as a legend, saying, "Chris is in the best shape of any actor I've seen. He's got huge arms and great coordination. I've never had to train so much in my life. 3 hours each session, twice a day, 6 days a week. If Chris wasn't an actor, he'd be one of the top stuntmen around." But even after all the high-wire stunts he's performed in an Asgardian breastplate, Hanton's favorite stunt is the prison scene in The Dark Knight Rises. He said, "I had to climb out of the prison he's in and jump, miss the landing, fall 100 feet and slam into the opposite wall. It was one of my first ever high falls, 100-footer, which is quite a nice feat to achieve for a stunt performer." Although Bobby Holland Hanton has done some stunts as Captain America, it's Sam Hargrave who takes the brunt of the star-spangled beatings. When he isn't acting as the man behind Cap's mask, he's also serving as Marvel's resident stunt coordinator and choreographer, designing some of the most memorable blowouts from Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Captain America: Civil War. Chances are, if one of Marvel's superheroes takes a knuckle to the face, Hargrave is responsible for it on some level. We've come a long way from the chest shavings and paint on latex Robert Downey Jr. had to endure for the first Iron Man.
John, don't Johnny. Faster!
Between CGI and stuntmen, Robert Downey Jr. barely ever has a reason to put on the Iron Man suit anymore, which leaves Clay Fontenot as the only guy who still has to suit up when the cameras are rolling. Fontenot doubled for Downey Jr. in Iron Man 2, and The Avengers, and he's done stunt work on nearly 80 other films as well, including Django Unchained, Guardians of the Galaxy, and all 3 Blade movies. Fontenot is easily one of the most prolific stuntmen in the business.
They're the unhailed heroes of Hollywood, stunt doubles. From free falls of 50 feet or more to crashing through windows, amazing chase scenes, and incredibly choreographed fights. Stunt doubles make most of the silver screen's biggest blockbusters possible. Here's a peek at what they really look like, and more about their amazing stunt resumes. The Rock's cousin Tanumai Reed has worked as his stunt double in nearly 20 different roles, from 2002's The Scorpion King to 2017's Baywatch. Reed has been performing stunts for his world-famous cuz. In addition to being practically as close as brothers, Reed and Johnson frequently collaborate behind the scenes on aspects of their combined performance. Reed has won 2 Taurus World Stunt Awards over the years for his work, as well as working as an actor and motion capture performer for the 2011 video game Thor: God of Thunder. For the last 10 years, Paul Darnell has been working as a stuntman when he's not busy competing in parkour and free-running competitions around the world. Darnell was inspired to start free-running and doing stunt work after watching a 2003 episode of Ripley's Believe It or Not, which featured parkour. Not only is he a talented stuntman, but Darnell has also been a two-time finalist on the popular television series American Ninja Warrior. A former gymnastics champion at Virginia Tech, Darnell has built up an impressive stunt reel over the years for himself, including his work as a double for Henry Cavill in Man of Steel, Adam Sandler in You Don't Mess with the Zohan, Paul Walker in Fast 5, and Robert Pattinson in Water for Elephants, Remember Me, and The Twilight Saga, a gig that Pattinson thanked Darnell for when the film won Best Fight at the MTV Movie Awards. Since the early 1990s, Canadian stuntwoman Marnie Ang has racked up more than 100 roles working as a stunt double and stunt coordinator, and has been twice nominated for a Taurus World Stunt Award, among many others. She's doubled for dozens of women and men over the years, but the actress she's performed stunts for most frequently has been Reese Witherspoon. Ang has been her double in at least 3 different roles, including 2015's Hot Pursuit. Ang is also no stranger to acting, and you can spot her as Tabitha, a spoof of the character Samara from The Ring in the 2003 horror comedy Scary Movie 3. There's no question that the hilarious NASCAR comedy Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby required a lot of fancy stunt driving, and Jack Gill is the man behind that action. Since the 1970s, Gill has worked as a stunt performer and stunt driver on over 170 films and television shows, including as the primary stunt driver on both The Dukes of Hazzard and Knight Rider.
We had a good time with the show, and it was one of those types of shows that was like a family. It was a really tight-knit group.
Over the years, Gill has branched out into stunt coordination and second unit directing, including on several of the Fast and Furious films. With a metal plate in his neck, 23 broken bones, and 8 concussions over the course of his 4-decade career, there's unquestionably nobody more qualified than Gill to testify about the difficulties of the job. Gill has also been instrumental in the push among the stunt community for an Oscar or two recognizing the achievements of the stunt men and women that make so many of today's movies possible. For the last decade, Lucy Romberg has been at the top of her game as a stuntwoman. The Hollywood native is a former champion gymnast and also competes as one of the few females in high-level free-running competitions around the world.
Fell in love with it and haven't gone back.
Over the course of her career, Romberg has doubled for Melissa McCarthy several times, including in Identity Thief, Spy, The Boss, and Ghostbusters. In the world of stunt performers, getting a job as the preferred stuntman or woman for one of Hollywood's top stars is the ultimate gig. For Greg Fitzpatrick, that opportunity came relatively early in his career, when he was picked as a stunt double for Ben Stiller in the 2003 film Duplex. Since then, Greg has become the preferred double for Stiller and has since appeared in more than a dozen films as Stiller's stuntman. In addition to his resemblance to Ben Stiller, Fitzpatrick is also a talented stunt performer and coordinator. He's won 2 Taurus World Stunt Awards and doubled for Robert Downey Jr. in both Iron Man and Iron Man 2. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, Vic Armstrong reigns as the most prolific stuntman in the world. Additionally, Armstrong is one of the few stunt performers to ever break the Academy Award barrier, winning a Technical Achievement Academy Award in 2001. With well over 100 stunt credits and a career that spans 5 decades, it probably wouldn't surprise you to learn that Armstrong doubled for some of Hollywood's biggest roles, including as James Bond, Superman, and Indiana Jones.
I mean, I'm not into drugs or anything, but when people talk about a high, when you do stunts, you get a natural high that I guarantee you nobody in the world can match.
Reportedly, crew members frequently confused Armstrong with Harrison Ford on the set of the Indiana Jones films, which resulted in Ford sending Armstrong a photo of the two of them with the humorous inscription, "If you learn to talk, I'm in deep trouble." Since the 1990s, Total Recall stuntman Billy Lucas has had the sweet gig of working as Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double on the set of most of his films. From Kindergarten Cop to the Terminator series, if you saw Arnold do some crazy action scenes, it was most likely Lucas's work that you were watching, not Arnold's. In addition to his role as Schwarzenegger's stunt double, Lucas has worked on over 100 different movies and TV shows as a stunt performer and coordinator. Despite his undoubtedly busy schedule, it seems that Schwarzenegger and Lucas have become close over the years. The former California governor even shared a story of how Lucas saved his life during a risky scuba diving shot on the set of The Sixth Day, saying, "I was trapped, then a hand grabbed me and pulled me out. It was my stunt double, Billy Lucas. He'd been watching from below with the tank and goggles and realized I was in big trouble." A Haitian native who immigrated to Brooklyn as a child, Randolph Leroy grew up playing sports and training in Taekwondo. As an adult, Leroy got involved in modeling and also became a firefighter in Miami. A spot as Mr. May on the fire department's promotional calendar began to land him roles in commercials and TV spots in Florida, which prompted Leroy to move to California to try his hand at acting and stunt performing. After being picked as a stunt double for Will Smith on 1995's Bad Boys, Leroy and Smith have become close friends. Since then, Leroy has doubled for Smith on nearly a dozen films, like in 2007's I Am Legend. Only a few short years after his stuntman debut in 1993, Eddie Yancek got picked to be Nicolas Cage's stunt double in the 1997 action film Con Air. Since then, Yancek has doubled for Cage in more than a dozen roles, including Lord of War, Matchstick Men, and Ghost Rider. In addition to his over 70 stunt credits over the last 3 decades, Yancek has also worked as a stunt coordinator, actor, and a second unit director. In 2001, Yancek distinguished himself with his stunt work when he won a Taurus Award for Best Driving for his performance in a Gone in 60 Seconds chase scene between a Mustang and a police car. Tony Angelotti is primarily known for his work as Johnny Depp's stunt double in the Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise, a job he's held at significant personal cost. An accident on the set of Dead Man's Chest in 2005 nearly ended his career and his life. While rehearsing a human yo-yo stunt, everything went drastically wrong.
No! Oh my god! Oh! Get me down!
The tension on the line was incorrect, and the centrifugal force whipped him around so hard that when Angelotti hit the end of the line, his pelvis was split apart like a wishbone on a turkey. It may not look that bad, but while prepping this sequence, Angelotti broke his pelvis, suffered injuries to his knees, legs, and bladder, and lost a massive 6 units of blood from internal bleeding. But he hasn't let his injuries keep him down. He doubled again for Depp in 2007's At World's End, and continues to work in the stunt field today.
Stunt performers are the unsung heroes of Hollywood productions, and Ahsokas are some of the finest in the biz. So, who are the faces behind the fights? Standing in as a stunt double for a lead protagonist is no easy job, especially when that protagonist is also a former Jedi. Rosario Dawson handles a majority of Ahsoka's scenes in the series, including a lot of the action, but she doesn't do it all. That's where Michelle C. Lee comes in. Though Lee is an immensely skilled martial artist and stunt woman, she's also a talented actor in her own right. You may know her from her role as Oksana in 2021's Black Widow, or as Violet in the Paramount Plus adventure series Blood and Treasure. Lee's stunt credits are extensive, including everything from Top Gun Maverick to Suicide Squad to Pacific Rim. Beyond film and television, Lee has also contributed her skills as a motion capture artist to a number of major video games. Those credits include Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, The Last of Us: Left Behind, and most notably, the Mortal Kombat series. Lee has worked extensively in the latter franchise, even playing Melina in the 2013 web series Mortal Kombat Legacy. Perhaps it's no surprise then that she was chosen to take on such an important and intensive role during production on Ahsoka. Sabine Wren has a unique fighting style, to say the least. She is trained under Jedi such as Kanan Jarrus and Ahsoka Tano, as well as Mandalorians and even instructors at the Imperial Academy. As a result, her approach in combat is something of a mishmash, equal parts Rebel Bounty Hunter, Mandalorian Warrior, and Jedi Knight.
Take us out.
While Natasha Liu Bordizzo does take a lot of the work in bringing that unique fighting style to life, she has some help too. Ahsoka Episode 7 credits Shao Naomova as a stunt double, a younger performer who still seems to be making a name for herself in Hollywood. Though she isn't marked as a stunt performer for the show on IMDb, Naomova's page does also credit her as playing the role of Lieutenant Jensu, one of the X-Wing pilots who accompanies General Hera Syndulla to Cetos. That particular squadron is apparently full of stunt performers, as longtime Din Djarin stand-in Brendan Wayne also flies a fighter in the same scene. Apart from Ahsoka, Naomova's only credit on IMDb is for playing the Street Fighter character Ibuki in a low-budget TV series. According to iStunt, Naomova was also a competitor on Season 4 of NBC's World of Dance. Hopefully, her multiple roles in Ahsoka will help to elevate her profile and career in the years to come. For a villain with the poise and presence of Ray Stevenson's Balin Skull, you need a stunt double equal to the task, and that's exactly what the Ahsoka crew found when they hired Morgan Benoit. You may not know Benoit's name, but you've almost surely seen his work. He was a stunt double for Keanu Reeves in 2013's 47 Ronin, and he has stunt credits on major action films like Terminator Dark Fate, Renfield, and Dune. All of those credits should have been enough to get Benoit the role of Stevenson's stunt double on Ahsoka, but it probably didn't hurt that he also had experience in the Star Wars universe. He has performed stunt work on The Mandalorian since 2020, and he even lent his talents to the big-budget video game Star Wars Jedi Survivor earlier in 2023. In short, he was the perfect man for the job, and Balin Skull's intense, aggressive lightsaber fights stand as testament to that fact. Having worked on The Mandalorian probably wasn't a requirement for stunt performers to get hired on Ahsoka, but it clearly wasn't a mark against them. Morgan Benoit wasn't the only performer to move from one Star Wars show to the other. Alicia Vela Bailey, the stunt double for Ivano Sarkno's character Hati, did as well. In addition to her previous Star Wars work, Vella Bailey has earned credits as Gal Gadot's stunt double for Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. She also played a Themysciran warrior early on in the first Wonder Woman movie. Star Wars isn't the only Disney franchise that Vella Bailey has experience in either. She's a true veteran of the Marvel Universe, appearing in several of the Netflix shows, including The Punisher and The Defenders, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., in which she played the role of Alicia Whitley. Vella Bailey has lent her talents to the Avatar franchise as well, playing a member of the villainous Recom unit in Avatar: The Way of Water. On that production, she also worked as a stunt double for both Sigourney Weaver and Zoe Saldana. Fans of Star Wars Rebels were more than elated at the end of Ahsoka Episode 6, when Iman Isfandi's Ezra Bridger finally made his on-screen debut. The character is instantly recognizable as a beloved Jedi rogue from the animated series, and Isfandi captures Ezra's spirit and personality perfectly.
The Force is my ally. That's all I need.
It was even more exciting for fans to see Ezra leap into action in Ahsoka's 7th episode, in which Esfandi was assisted by his stunt double, Jason Chu. Once again, we've got a Mandalorian alumnus here. Chu has also worked on Disney projects such as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America: Civil War, as well as multiple entries in the modern Planets of the Apes franchise. He's been particularly busy over the past several years, lending his skills to movies such as Army of the Dead, Blade Runner 2049, and Free Guy, among other projects. One thing's for sure, he's not inexperienced. Ezra's Force-centric fighting style in Ahsoka is a lot of fun to watch, and if their social media activity is any indication, Chu and Esfandi forged a strong bond during production. The actor was commenting on his stunt double's Instagram posts as recently as December 2022, pumping him up over some snazzy pics. But you'd expect nothing less from the Ezra we all know and love, wouldn't you? So, what do we know about the stunt doubles who brought Deadpool and Wolverine to life? Deadpool is about as non-traditional as superheroes come. Not only are his antics fairly R-rated, but the character also likes to dance, and often uses moves that are designed for how cool they look rather than, say, efficiency.
Maximum effort.
Although Reynolds tries to stay in the suit as much as possible, his age means that it isn't always possible for him to physically portray Wade Wilson in his more animated moments. Fortunately, the fact that Wade Wilson appears in his costume most of the time means that it's pretty easy to hide the fact that a stunt double is performing under the mask. Alex Kitchkovich has been Reynolds' stunt performer throughout his tenure as the Merc with a Mouth. Not only has he been the actor's double for all 3 Deadpool installments, but he also previously worked with Reynolds in the Adam Project. Speaking to Tatler, Reynolds described Kitchkovich as a really gifted guy with a 14-pack. For Deadpool and Wolverine, Kitchkovich worked as a fight coordinator and doubled for Reynolds in fight sequences. As a stunt double, Kitchkovich has worked extensively in Marvel projects, mostly those involving the X-Men. He also doubled for Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant and Kurt Russell in both Christmas Chronicle films. While most actors in a film will only need a single stunt double, occasionally multiple stunt performers are required. That's certainly the case with Deadpool in Deadpool and Wolverine, a character who features in almost every scene and takes part in the lion's share of the action. Part of the reason Deadpool needs multiple stunt performers in the film is his distinctive fighting style, which often showcases his acrobatic prowess. Some of the stunt double work in Deadpool and Wolverine fell to Rick English, a veteran of the stunt game who has credits in over 160 projects. Reynolds was likely already familiar with English due to his work on The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. The 2021 movie saw him perform a number of stunts and act as a motorcycle stunt double during an action-packed chase sequence. English is particularly well known for his work on comic book movie productions. He has worked as a stunt double on several DC movies, including The Batman and The Dark Knight, as well as MCU projects such as Black Widow and Secret Invasion. Yet another stunt performer who stood in for Ryan Reynolds on Deadpool and Wolverine, Johnny James is no stranger to doubling for the Canadian A-lister. He has done the dirty work for Reynolds in several films, including The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard and Red Notice. James might not have been in the industry quite as long as some of the other stunt performers in Deadpool and Wolverine, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have the necessary skills to bring Wade Wilson to life. His first role came in Terminator Genesis, on which he worked as a motion capture performer. He later landed parts as a stunt performer in some of Hollywood's biggest franchises. For example, if you're a Star Wars fan, then you've likely seen James in action without knowing it. He did stunt work for Solo: A Star Wars Story and Andor. In terms of superhero films, one of his earliest credits was Justice League. He went on to land gigs on Spider-Man: Far From Home and more recently Secret Invasion. Long before Deadpool and Wolverine hit theaters, Channing Tatum was set to portray Gambit in his own comic book movie.
Like, I was a fan of Gambit since I was a kid, so there's a lot of things that I've been looking forward to getting to do for a very, very long time.
Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox threw a wrench into the works for a movie already stuck in development hell, and it looked as if Tatum's chance of playing his favorite superhero was dead and gone. Fortunately, the third installment in the Deadpool series provided the perfect opportunity for Gambit to appear, and Tatum jumped at the chance to finally play the Marvel character. At first glance, Gambit might appear little more than a glorified magician, but the mutant is both a skilled hand-to-hand combatant and is capable of manipulating kinetic energy. Gambit plays a pivotal role in helping Deadpool and Wolverine escape the Void, fighting against Cassandra Nova with the help of the Resistance members known as the Others. Stunt double Joel Adrian substitutes for Tatum during this set piece. This isn't the first time that the stunt performer has appeared in a superhero project. He has previously worked on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and The Batman, as well as blockbuster hits from The Kingsman to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Deadpool and Wolverine is jam-packed with hidden cameos and references. This is most obvious during the dramatic fight with the Deadpool Corps, in which dozens of Deadpool variants attempt to stop the original Deadpool and Wolverine from reaching Cassandra Nova. The fact that the vast majority of these characters are masked means that the filmmakers were able to hide many actors in plain sight, as was the case with Cowboy Paul. A Western-inspired version of the Merc with a Mouth, Cowboy Paul comes equipped with a cowboy hat, revolvers, spurs, and an Old West accent. Matthew McConaughey provided the voice for the character, marking the Oscar winner's debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The person inside the suit, however, is stunt double Tom Cotton, which makes sense given McConaughey isn't exactly known for his action roles. Cotton has credits for stunt work in more than 40 television and film projects. His most recent role before Deadpool and Wolverine was in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, while he also worked on both Avatar: The Way of Water and The Batman. Cotton has also collaborated with Ryan Reynolds in the past, working on The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Chris Evans' appearance in Deadpool and Wolverine makes for quite the shock, with the movie initially teasing that he has once again taken up the mantle of Captain America. Heck, even Deadpool himself believes this is the case. Soon enough, however, it turns out that Evans is reprising a very different Marvel role from earlier in his career, Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch from the original Fantastic Four movies. Johnny Storm helps Deadpool and Wolverine when they first land in the Void, and eventually meets a grisly end before he can get too involved in the action. But he does take part in one brief fight. Stunt performer James Cox doubles for Evans in Deadpool and Wolverine. This wasn't his first outing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, Cox is something of a regular in recent movies in the franchise, having appeared in movies from the Marvels to Eternals to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Jennifer Garner first portrayed the assassin Elektra in 2003's Daredevil, and later reprised her role for Elektra in 2005. As the years went by, it seemed as though Garner's solo spin-off would be her last outing as the character. That wasn't the case though, as Elektra shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine as one of the Others. She later joins the two protagonists in their assault against Nova's forces, meaning she's involved in plenty of fighting action. Having last played Elektra almost 2 decades ago, expecting Garner to perform all of her own stunts in Deadpool and Wolverine would have been a tad unrealistic. That's where Shauna Duggins came in. Duggins is an experienced stunt performer who has appeared in more than 150 films and television shows. Duggins previously made history for her work on the Netflix comedy drama series Glow, becoming the first woman to win a Creative Arts Emmy Award in the comedy category for stunt coordination. She told The Hollywood Reporter that she was honored to be the first woman to scoop the award in this category, adding, "I think this show in general breaks the mold, and I'm so honored to be a part of it." One of the highlights of 2017's Logan is the character Laura, also known by her codename X-23. Cloned from Wolverine's DNA, she shares his bone claws and many of his other abilities, such as advanced healing. Laura is once again portrayed by Daphne Keane in Deadpool and Wolverine. In the third Deadpool film, Laura is part of the Others alongside Elektra, Gambit, and Blade. Managing to convince Wolverine to take part in the attack on Cassandra Nova's compound, she plays a vital role in defeating the villain's forces and allowing Deadpool and Wolverine to escape the Void. For her action sequences in the movie, Laura is portrayed by Nadia Hansel. The British stunt performer is an expert in a number of martial arts and has appeared in dozens of movies and television shows, including MCU movies such as Spider-Man: Far From Home, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Wolverine, Thor, Iron Man. Is there any superhero this guy hasn't suited up to play? Hugh Jackman's stunt double in Deadpool and Wolverine has been part of just about every blockbuster in recent history. Hugh Jackman has been playing Wolverine for nearly 25 years, and a few people would disagree that Jackman is as closely connected with the role in the public's mind as Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man. But Jackman hasn't been alone in bringing Wolverine to life. While the actor does as many of his own stunts as he can, even at the age of 55, he has a dedicated stuntman to handle the really rough stuff. Enter Daniel Stevens. The Australian performer's career as a stunt person stretches back to the late 1990s, but his affiliation with Hugh Jackman and Wolverine started with 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine. Although he and his fellow Aussie don't quite look exactly alike, Stevens recently worked as Jackman's stunt double again on Deadpool and Wolverine, and posted an affecting tribute to the project on his Instagram page, writing, "It's tough to describe how much it means to me to have been part of this film. The love that Hugh and Ryan have for these characters permeated through the entire set. Getting to wear the comic-accurate costume after all these years was as incredible for me as I'm sure it is for all the fans watching the film." In his Instagram post, Stevens mentioned first doubling for Hugh Jackman 17 years ago on X-Men Origins Wolverine, noting that he was brought onto the project by then stunt coordinators David Leitch and Chad Stahelski. It was also on that project that he met Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds for the first time.
Great. Stuck in an elevator with 5 guys on a high-protein diet.
Oh, wait.
Dreams really do come true.
So just shut it.
Talking about Reynolds and Jackman in his post, Stevens added, "There's a reason why it keeps getting said that they are two of the hardest working and nicest guys in Hollywood. That may be true, but Stevens is giving them a run for their money." Since X-Men Origins, Stevens has doubled for Jackman in the Wolverine, X-Men Days of Future Past, Logan, and now Deadpool and Wolverine. And if Jackman wants to keep wearing the claws in future movies, we suspect that Stevens will be right there alongside him. As for whether Hugh Jackman will indeed reprise his role as Logan for future Marvel movies, that remains a closely guarded secret for now. Meanwhile, when not mixing it up with mutants, mercs with mouths, and monsters at the end of time, Daniel Stevens has handled stunts on other Ryan Reynolds projects, like Free Guy and Red Notice, as well as a number of Marvel films like Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Black Panther, and other MCU favorites. In various films, he's doubled for Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Sebastian Stan, Chris Pratt, and so many more. He's also worked down the street, as they say, on DC's Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad, and The Dark Knight Rises. Basically, if you need superhero action, Daniel Stevens is the man to call. Outside of that, Stevens has lent his skills to just about every other major action spectacle or franchise tentpole of the last couple of decades, including Bullet Train, Jungle Cruise, Kong, Skull Island, Transformers: Age of Extinction, and Extraction.
Send the boy out!
He's also worked on countless TV shows over the years, and has been staying busy lately on the upcoming Red One, The Old Guard 2, and an untitled big-budget film from director Paul Thomas Anderson. But we believe Stevens when he says that donning the yellow and blue for the first time was a high point in an already remarkable career.
Who walks for the Daywalker? Wesley Snipes' stunt double in Deadpool and Wolverine has been in just about every big blockbuster of the last few years. Among the many superhero cameos featured in Deadpool and Wolverine, the appearance of Blade, played once again by Wesley Snipes, is maybe one of the most surprising. Although the Blade films were cult classics back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Snipes hasn't acted in the role since 2004. And from the way Snipes tells it, no one was more surprised than him to be coming back. He told Entertainment Weekly, "I didn't think we would be able to pull it off. I didn't think that Marvel was into it. Disney was into it. I thought it didn't make sense to me, but when you get a call from Ryan Reynolds out of the blue after 20 years, you go, okay, I gotta take this call." But although Snipes was reportedly eager to team up with Reynolds, his former Blade Trinity co-star, he didn't bring back the same stunt double he'd used in the Blade trilogy. Instead, prolific stunt performer Callie Nell stood in during some parts of his brief but intense action scene. Nell fit right into the production, which makes sense. Deadpool and Wolverine was far from his first Marvel rodeo. The French-born Callie Nell began training in martial arts as a teenager, specializing in taekwondo and later parkour and freerunning. He began working as a stunt performer when he was hired to work on Guardians of the Galaxy, beginning his long and fruitful relationship with Marvel. In the years since, he has doubled for some of the most prominent actors working in the industry today, including Samuel L. Jackson in The Hitman's Bodyguard, Jaimon Honsu in both King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, and The Kingsman, Corey Hawkins in The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and The Matrix Resurrections. Aside from these doubling roles, he's been featured as a general stunt performer in a surprising number of high-profile productions over the past decade. He's dipped a toe in seemingly every franchise, appearing in Kingsman: The Secret Service, Terminator Genesis, Transformers: The Last Knight, Solo: A Star Wars Story, Men in Black International, The Batman, and Fast X. He also has several actor credits to his name, although they're generally side characters who mainly exist specifically to be involved in stunts. In Kingsman: The Secret Service, for example, he was part of the gang that gets beaten up by Colin Firth in the pub.
Are we going to stand around here all day, or are we going to fight?
Although Nell has developed a reputation as an elite stunt performer over the years, even winning Best Fight at the Taurus World Stunt Awards for his work in The Kingsman, that's not all he does on set. In recent years, Nell has split his time between traditional stunt doubling and dabbling in fight coordination, which is a far more intricate role. Essentially, a fight coordinator designs and oversees all fight sequences in a film or television series, sometimes working with a choreographer depending on the needs of the production. For example, if there's a particularly complicated style of martial arts required, they collaborate with the stunt coordinator who handles all the action sequences of the film, but they're in charge of using on-screen fights to execute the director's storytelling vision. In 2022, Nell served as a fight coordinator for the star's historical drama Becoming Elizabeth, and the following year he was brought on in the same role for both Ridley Scott's epic Napoleon and the second season of Marvel's Loki.